In a world overrun with an infinite amount of multiverses originating from a plethora of sources, a group of longtime friends band together and try to make sense of it all and present it to an audience in an easy-to-digest podcast. This is Geeking Off the Page.
Greetings, geeks. Welcome to another episode of Geeking Off the Page. This is a weird, unholy Voltron edition. Somewhere in the mirror universe, Troy and Gavin are doing their own thing.
In a world overrun with an infinite amount of multiverses originating from a plethora of sources, a group of longtime friends band together and try to make sense of it all and present it to an audience in an easy-to-digest podcast. This is Geeking Off the Page.
Greetings, geeks. I'm Gavin, and welcome to yet another episode of Geeking Off the Page. This is episode
66.
What is it? 66.
It's episode
Jesus.
66, yes.
What is
Execute
going on here?
episode 66.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So Zoom gonna come out and like
Getting in,
terminate
yeah.
me?
Yeah, getting
Oh,
into
boy.
the Star Wars references early. Oh, and by the way, I'm Troy, and welcome to the show. As Gavin's just stated, this is episode 66 of our program, and
somehow this is going to be smashed together in some sort of editorial process with me.
I'm a leg. I'm Trevor, and I'll be a leg in this Voltron.
Yeah. So let's have some fun with this one. How you doing, Trevor?
Pretty good, pretty good. Just got through my 50th birthday. I survived relatively unscathed. I'd say I'm intact. That's about as best I can give.
It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage.
I know. 50 trips around the sun can start to wear on you after a while. Anyways, so yes, we have some things to discuss here. I'm going to have you start. And what have you been watching since our last episode? Anything?
The only thing I've been watching, again, my family's been doing this whole anime kick because, I don't know, we can't find any sort of American media that gets our attention, is an anime called Demon Slayer. And that's one where we finished Spy Family and had to find something else to watch. And again, the girls recommended this one. And have you seen this one before? Or heard of it?
I know I've heard of it. I don't think I've actually seen anything of it.
Okay, so I think we're still first season. As far as I know, I haven't done a deep dive into it. I think there's a couple seasons plus a movie. And I know the movie made more money than any other movie during the whole pandemic lockdown. It was something like $500 million for the movie that was released. And essentially what it is it's sort of like a medieval sort of feudal Japan. And there's this little kid, Tanjiro, and his family who live up in the mountains. And he's doing his chores, going around, I forget what it was, like selling coal or whatever. He comes back and finds his entire family's been murdered, except his sister is still alive, sort of. She's been turned into a demon.
Yeah, okay. I think I've seen clips of this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so his little sister, who's now a demon, is the only person he has left. And he has to figure out, like, what the hell do I do now? And eventually he goes through 2 years of training to become a demon slayer. And there's this really cool character, and I forget his name all the time. He's basically like a reverse Akatsuki. He's got this blue cloak with the white clouds and wears this demon mask because apparently his face is too handsome and he wants to be more scary. And he trains Tanjiro how to become a demon slayer. He goes through the training. All these kids get slaughtered during this demon slayer training. He passes with a couple others, and from there on he just gets missions. This crow comes, or it's either a crow or a raven, and tells him where he needs to go, and he ends up teaming up with a couple other characters. There's Zenitsu, which is this kid who's all yellow in an orange cloak, and it's one of the most annoying anime characters I've ever seen in my life. And when the show starts out, Tanjiro I thought was a little bit, amped up to 11. You know how anime, they kind of get really intense, and they always kind of talk like this and really express their emotions.
Shout all the time.
Yeah. So Tanjiro is kind of like that until this Zenitsu shows up, and this is like cranked up to like 100. It's just completely freaking out, constantly scared, completely pervy, always wants to like marry any girl he meets, completely insane, can't hold himself in battle. But this character, when he falls asleep, he goes into the sleepwalk. So everything that's obnoxious about him, he just like it's this calm. He's one of the most ultimate fighters out of the entire team. It's completely crazy. Inosuke, I think I'm saying this right, is this other demon slayer who wears this boar head. And he was raised by boars, and he's just completely insane where he wants to prove he's the strongest. He's completely clueless. So anytime one character does it, it's like, yeah, I could do that too. So he'll try and do that. And, it's like he gets smashed in the head. Oh, yeah, well, I can do that. The one Tanjiro, I think, did a headbutt on him or something, knocked him out. So the next episode, he's smashing his head against trees constantly. Again, the whole thing's completely crazy. And the sister, Nezuko, so she's a demon who has never tasted like human flesh or blood. And this is apparently unheard of for the demons. So Tanjiro wants to protect his sister, and his mentor builds a little box that he carries around on the back. And she crawls in because demons are kind of like a mix between zombies and vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So if they get sunlight, they burn and die. So anytime he goes on a traveling trip, he's got to carry her around in a little box, and then she can come out at night. And I guess because she's an anomaly, she has never tasted blood, she just sleeps a lot.
Yeah, I remember seeing something like until she's not a full demon until she ingests blood or flesh.
Yeah.
So right now she's kind of like in limbo. So she could be reverted back, or she could go all the way. Like she has that option.
Yeah, and throughout the series so far, she's had all these chances where she could have, but she keeps like associating like the humanity to everybody. Like she sees her family and she sees her brother, and she'll sacrifice herself to protect everybody. So anyway, from there it goes on and on and on. There's like the higher level Demon Slayer core, and we're just getting to the point where he's like meeting all the elites. At one point, the head demon, I think his name's Muzan, he's encountered at one point, he has a human family, which is really weird. He's encountered in essentially like a Tokyo, and Tanjiro sees him because he has this enhanced sense of smell, like a Wolverine kind of thing, and could have killed him at that moment. But then Muzan ends up creating a demon in the crowd, and Tanjiro doesn't know. It's like, oh my god, there's like a kid, and I don't want to kill the father, and like what would happen? Mm-hmm. So he has this like moment where he steps back. Anyway, so we're not too far in. We're like still first season, but it's crazy. It's completely bonkers. The intensity of it, the obnoxiousness of it is insane. But the fact that it's good enough that, my wife, Mrs. Kitchen, will sit down and watch it with the family. That's a pretty strong hook. My youngest daughter, again, she's 21, but it's too gory for her. She's like, no, I'm going to bed. I don't need to look at this. But my 11-year-old son, he's like, yeah, this is awesome. So that's the one we've been watching.
Okay.
And we're just chugging like right along right here. We usually there's sometimes there's 4 of us, sometimes there's 2 of us, and you know what? As Gavin pointed out pre-show, that I think this is the first show that it's just been me and Gavin, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
It has never been a Troy Gavin show.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is one for the record books sort of thing. But yeah. So like I said, it's a new year, and there's always new stuff, which is kind of neat. So not really prevalent to it being a new year, but basically, what we're going to talk about is some recently acquired pop culture and all that sort of thing. Do you have anything at the top of your list that you want to talk about, Gavin? Or
let's see. Well, something that's been that's way bigger than I ever thought it would be is I've started getting into Gunpla, aka Gundam plastic modeling.
Yes.
And I came to work one day, just after Christmas, and there's this giant box sitting on my chair, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And just to give you an idea of the size of the box, this is the box.
Okay, so you've been posting all this time pictures of the box and this stuff, but there's been no reference. There's been no size reference. It's like,
oh yeah, no, this box is
a
as
torso.
wide as my torso.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm looking at this one like, holy shit, what is this? And so my friend points out it's Gunpla, Gundam plastic model kits. And I'm like, okay, I've done one before that was like a little tiny, what they referred to as quote unquote entry grade, basically for the primary preschooler type builders, I guess is the best way to describe it. And the one that he gave me is what they call master grade. So it's kind of like going from preschool to doing university level algebra in the space of like 2 courses. Now, playing around with it, I opened it up, had a look at like the runners inside, all of the plastic molded pieces, and the way Bandai does it is it's labeled A through Z. And what I didn't realize, what there was multiples of the letters because some of them had were the exact same gun or the exact same piece, and then there was like appendixes WA, WB, WC. And I swear to God, there's probably some small world country out there that has a plastic shortage because of this particular model. Now, once I started going through the instruction manual, there's a minor bit of despair. It was just realizing just how much of a task this was going to be. And so I just started leafing through the instruction manual, which is probably about 30, 40 pages deep, with detailed instructions on decals and all that stuff. And so I start building it about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And like, there's like 50 parts for a foot. There's like 30 parts for an arm. And I'm like, holy shit, this is so intricate.
It's definitely not Lego.
Was this guy, the Unicorn Gundam.
Wow.
From the TV series.
Right. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's huge. Like there are bits and pieces hanging off of these white things you see here. These are booster jets.
Right.
Like there's three shields, 6 Gatling beam cannons, bazookas, grenade launchers. Like it's like Optimus Prime and Arnold Schwarzenegger had a baby and this was it. Like something right out of Commando, but with Transformers. Now, the icing on the cake for me with this particular kit was I decided I'm gonna, check out the show that this is based off, because if I'm gonna make this thing, I better know what it's from. Like
that's a
what
good thing.
does.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks fucking cool, but I have no reference. So I start watching the show, and now as I'm watching, it's the dub version, and there's some, I'm hearing some familiar voice actors out there. It's they tend to use a lot of the same folks, and then there's this one particular voice that stands out to me. It's like, kind of an older gravelly man voice, and I'm like, oh, what is going on here? Why do I recognize that voice? So I go into IMDb and I look it up, and it's my biological father's voice. The actual the guy who's my real life biological father.
Seriously,
the main character's father in this show.
No shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy shit. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm adopted, and it was only in the past about 6 years that I ended up doing an ancestry DNA test, and basically the top match when I got it back was my biological father. So I reached out. And we've had a amicable relationship ever since, and it's only now I'm starting to realize his backlog of media that he's worked on. Like, he's done so much anime, a lot of new stuff that's out there, a lot of old stuff. Way back in the days when you remember we were watching like Ranma 1/2 on VHS. My understanding is he did some stuff for his video, although he wasn't credited for some of it.
Really? Okay. All right.
But it's like, holy shit, like there was this crazy connection between this model kit and my biological dad. Holy shit.
That is freaking amazing. Oh, dude, that's an amazing story. Holy crap.
Yeah, so apparently I'm a Gundam plastic model builder now.
All right.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Wow.
This is a rabbit hole. Oh boy.
So have you spoken to your father since you found this information out and all
Oh
that
yeah.
sort of thing? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
we
Cool,
were
cool.
chatting a little bit about it, and when I asked him about this particular role, he's like, "You know what? I honestly don't usually know what the relationship is because they just give me my lines, I do the lines,
Right.
and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was it."
yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
"But like Kismet, I mean, amazing."
That is that's a phenomenal coincidence sort of thing. That is so freaking cool.
What the hell,
Wow.
man?
Wow, that is so cool. And all because of Christmas. It's a Christmas miracle.
Well, also don't forget I'm half Jewish,
Yeah, no,
so
no, I understand. I
happy.
understand that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, then. All
We'll
right. So
call it a
those
Hanukkah miracle.
yeah, yeah, exactly. A little bit of a Hanukkah miracle. Yes, exactly. Yes. But no, that's freaking fantastic. Wow. Had you actually brought that part of the story up yet, or is this the first time you've spoken about that with your
First time I've spoken to the like on the
dude?
podcast.
That's so cool.
Now, as a counterpoint, you said you can't find anything. Well, this one's not really American TV; it's more British. So the series Extraordinary has come out. It's
That's
on.
British. I
It
just assumed that was American.
Actually, it's British. It's on Hulu down here. I think it's Disney Plus up there in Canada. And it's let's see, came out on the 25th. It was so well received by the critics and whatnot that on January 23rd, 2 days before it dropped, it got renewed for a second season. So gives you kind of an idea. And the whole idea is it follows this girl, Mary, or is it Mary? Or no, Jen, sorry, Jen, who she lives in a world where when people turn 18, they gain a superpower. Could be flight, could be strength, could be anything, like being able to change your hairstyle, like color and cut and everything at whim. She has nothing, no powers. Now she's 23, living in London, and like, everyone has powers. Like her on again, off again boyfriend can fly. One of her roommates can channel dead people and speak with their voice and has all like basically like sucks the dead person's soul into her body and then they use her kind of like as a medium to do stuff. Her flatmate's boyfriend who lives with them can rewind time a very short period, but he can rewind time and yeah, so stuff like that. And so yeah, she works at like a costume shop, like a Party City, but much smaller. And every day she has to wear a different character costume sort of thing. And she wants to find out if is she the only dud, like someone who never has a power, or there's this place that promises they can help you explore yourself and discover your power, but it costs like £10,000. But the series it's funny. It's a great take on this whole superhero genre thing because there's really no big name superheroes. It's funny is she lives next door to an out of business comic book shop because who's going to buy comic books when everyone has powers? Like, what are the comic books of? So it's this little tongue in cheek things here and there. It's very British in terms of the dialogue and the sensibility. I wouldn't recommend it for people like say under the age of 16 because they do touch on quite a few sensitive subjects. Like one guy this girl dates, his superpower is he can make anyone orgasm with a touch. As long as he touches bare skin to their bare skin, they instantly experience an orgasm. And at one point, he makes a cat orgasm, like a stray cat, and they end up calling the cat Jizzlord. And turns out Jizzlord is a shapeshifter who's been stuck in cat form for like 3 years and has now suddenly come back to human form, but remembers very little to nothing of his life as a human. He can remember a lot about being a cat, but virtually nothing as being a human. So he's like kind of like an unintended now flatmate. We're only like 3 or 4 episodes in, and it is hilarious. And yeah, I highly recommend it. But again, there is a definite age limit that like, that you need to cut off. That people under certain age, you know, because as I said, some of the humor is not aimed at younger audiences. But yeah, I'm having a great time. It is hilarious.
That's one where I saw the trailer for it, and I was kind of thinking it was going to be one of those like Warner Brothers CW kind of shows where it's kind of, there's a lot of those shows like the Titans, or was it, what do they call it? Teen Titans or Titans, whatever
Titans,
it was.
and
where they try and take the concept and don't quite do it well. So for this one, I wasn't sure. I was looking at it. It's a neat premise. It looks like something that would be done as one of those indie books in the 90s.
Yeah, no one's wearing a costume except for the boyfriend who wants to start up a group of vigilantes. And he's got like, there's on the vigilante, so he's got the ability to rewind time. One of the other guys can phase through walls, but only if he's naked. And he runs out of power a lot, so he gets stuck in a lot of walls. Another guy's a speedster, but is a complete perv, and just like no woman wants to be near him. And another guy, his ass is a 3D printer. So at one point they're like, we need a marker. He's like, give me 3 minutes. And then they're handing around a marker wrapped up in like paper towel because no one wants to touch it because it just came out of this guy's ass.
Yeah, okay, that's crazy. That's actually one superpower I've never heard of before.
A lot of this show, there's like people have like the super, and you're like, huh? And like her younger sister has super strength, but her mom's superpower is she can control TVs and like change the channels and raise and lower the volume. That's her power. And her like stepdad's power is he can sense emotional distress. Like just goofy, off the fucking wall powers. But yeah, it's great because I mean, how many times can people be like fly and super strength and blah 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 blah, like the same generic powers over and over and over again. So the writers of this show it's almost like they just snip together 100,000 different pieces of papers, like, and this and this and this, and what's the superpower makeup, like ability to communicate with rotted corn, good enough, like just crazy shit like that. So yeah, it's fun. I do recommend it. It's like a quirky off the wall sort of show. Very British in terms of like that. So yeah, I got to recommend it. So that's one thing my wife and I have started to watch together. And initially she was like, my wife was very like kind of resistant because she's not a big whole fan of the whole superhero thing. And by the end of the first episode, she's like, yeah, let's keep going. And by the end of the second episode, she was hooked.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right. So to move on from that, I'm going to talk about some stuff that's been recently on air quite a bit, and that's legacy TV series. And as we've had quite a few of that sort of thing popping up nowadays, what I just recently watched was that 90s show. Now, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of that 70s show and the juggernaut that series was when it was on from 1989 to 2006.
Something like that.
Yeah, 98 to 2006.
6
yeah, it was
seasons.
It was 8.
One terrible season.
Yeah, it was 8 seasons in total. So yeah, but
7 seasons, 1 terrible season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But every series sort of runs into that sort of thing. But again, it made superstars out of most of the cast and introduced the world to two fantastic character actors of like Kitty and Red sort of thing. So what this is Netflix now owns, because it was originally Fox. So Netflix now has the rights to, and they've produced I believe it's a 10 series season 1, 10 episode season 1. And yeah, it's all dropped all at once sort of thing, half-hour format and all that sort of thing.
Netflix.
It's got its laugh track, which I don't believe the original series had a laugh track to it. I think it was, I didn't do my research on it. It sounded a little more.
It sounded to me like it felt very at home in the show. So I mean,
yeah.
It didn't jump out at me like it was like something new they were trying.
Yeah, exactly. But this version here definitely does have a laugh track, except for a couple of scenes which the actual audience reaction sounds more natural. There's more depth to the reactions and all that. But it's like I said, it's all on Netflix right now, and it's basically the return of to the Foreman household, which is kind of neat. Whether or not this is the original sets or not, if it's the original sets, that's kind of cool. Whether or not the sets have been sitting in storage for like the past 20 years since the series actually ended, and they've just decided to mothball it and redesign it. But if they've recreated the sets, because the basement and the kitchen and the driveway and Donna's old room, Eric's old room, and I'm trying to remember if there's any other sets that are. Oh, and the restaurant, the little
Like the cafe,
cafe that they would hang out in occasionally. They're all recreated in this, and they're obviously updated because it's now 20 years later and all that.
Yeah, I gotta say, the sets were bang on. I was looking at them, and honestly, it felt like if anything had changed, it was just that maybe they added a couple things down there. But like most parents, they probably they didn't touch the basement. You know, they left the decorations up, so it felt like it was back at that's in the 70s. Like I would be hard pressed to tell the difference unless you gave me a shot by shot comparison.
Yeah, and also basically it looks like the main difference is it's shooting at higher quality, right? It's not like whatever SD or whatever that the 70 show was filmed in. This is obviously HD for Netflix and all that.
Absolutely.
Now I'm going to say how it does seem like it's more than likely a canned laughter, because the actors seem to be not naturally pausing for it or just continuing on with the joke, and the laughter automatically dies down or something like that.
Right.
It is kind of neat because every once in a while you can see that someone is about to break in a particular shot from a reaction to something that someone else has said pretty good and all that. Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp. Yes, Rupp. It's R-U-P-P, Rupp. Returning as Red and Kitty is, I mean, the cornerstone of this show, and it's the reason why the show was done. They were, I think, the main reason why they actually were the ones to return, because if you look at the opening credits, they are both executive producers. So, which means not only are they getting paid to act, they are also getting paid extra for being a part of the production. So that's always one way to get people interested in coming back to a series like this. So right off the get-go, we got the whole entire nostalgia to the original series, because in the first episode, both Eric and Donna return to the household and all that with their now 14, about to turn 15-year-old daughter, who is given the name of Leia, which is kind of neat that her name is called Leia Foreman. And Donna is a successful published author that unfortunately we don't know what she actually writes, because basically she's just known to have released some sort of books that people are reading because whatnot. And Eric is teaching Star Wars as part of school curriculum. And
which is very apropos, honestly.
Yes, exactly. And of course, like I said, we're getting to the nostalgia because this whole entire episode is riddled with original trilogy references, because this actually series starts on July 4th, 1995. So we're in the dark period of the Star Wars universe and all that. So there's not much out there right now. We're still a couple of years away from, well, we're 4 years away from episode 1 coming out. So, but
is Eric going to be disappointed?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm pretty sure if the series does get to that point, because again, the first series, that 70s show, the first season had the release of Star Wars. So that sets the series starting in 1977. and then it ran for 8 years. And in the final episode, it changed from 1979 to 1980 because it ended on New Year's Eve. So now you've got a 5-year window that you can do all that stuff before. Well, now you have 4 years to play with before you can do an episode 1 reference and all that. But anyways, Donna, Eric, they're living in, I believe it's Chicago. They've come out to visit. And then Leia decides that instead of going to space camp with Dad, because that's what he wants to do, she wants to stay at Grandma and Grandpa Foreman's place for the summer because she's met some pretty cool kids and all that. And we're given a classic trope of the assortment of kids. There's like the attractive kid, the quirky next door neighbor, her dumb brother, his sort of smart girlfriend, and instead of like the Fez character, they have an Asian gay character and all that, and it's a nice eclectic sort of grouping and all that. And they're all misfits, so they're not the popular kids and all that sort of thing, but they're all getting together. And the fact that this actually takes place during the summer, this first season, we now realize that, hey, this might be the way they do it. Like season 2, we're going to come back for the next summer and stay because she has to go back to Chicago for schooling or something like that. At the end of the first episode, we find out that the Joey Tribbiani of this group is actually a Kelso. And it turns out that both Ashton Kutcher and Mina Kunis also make a cameo at the end of the episode and all that. And of course, like Kitty's excited to see the two of them, and of course Red's not, and so it's typical interactions.
Classic Red.
And all that, yeah. And it's really cool. I mean, the two groups don't interact with each other. Eric and Donna have gone back to Chicago, and at the end of the episode, Ashton Kutcher and Mina Kunis do their own cameo, and that's when you find out that the one I believe his name is Jim, John, Jay. It's Jay, right? Because in the second episode, she makes a Jay. Gosh, anyways, so yeah, and then in another episode, they bring back Fez, which is kind of neat. Fez shows up as part of the storyline. Bob shows up in the storyline because he's Grandpa Bob, because of course he's Donna's father, so he's related now to Leia. It's just kind of weird to see a character being constantly called Leia and no one's like batting an eye sort of thing, which is kind of funny. We even have a return of Tommy Chong's character. He shows up in an episode.
Yes,
kind of neat.
That was perfect.
Yeah, so again, it's got a really, I mean, it follows the tropes of the original series. It has its quirky moments. It has its cockamamie stories. It has the typical sitcom, the Three's Company sort of situation. If someone had said something or someone misunderstands something and you get into this whole entire situation, and by the end of it, it gets worked out. So it's actually kind of a fun, so far it's a fun thing. And like I've seen about the first 6 or 7 episodes, I can't remember where I stopped, of 10. So it's actually quite, I'm quite enjoying it, sort of thing. And it's nice because it's fitting in with this like I said, legacy television series that are out there right now.
Anything else you've been watching?
No, not really.
All right.
No, it's been Spy Family. Or no, I haven't been watching Spy Family. I've wanted to know what you thought of Spy Family. You said you were watching it.
I watched I think it was the first 5 episodes. I binged like 2 in a row, and then I had stuff coming up, and the first 2 episodes was enough to hook me. It's a fun series. I really enjoyed it. I like the fact that the daughter keeps freaking out when she realizes that she's got to keep the mother and father together, otherwise,
her fake family falls apart.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of funny how they're holding secrets back from one another continuously. The daughter knows because she's a telepath, but she's not telling anybody she's a telepath.
That's her secret.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's a fun series, and it's very accessible. So yeah, it's not something that you have to have a lot of backstory with. or anything like that. It's a fun show to watch.
Because that's one thing I've been finding. Like even with the stuff we've been talking about now, if I look at American media, there's not a whole lot I'm interested in. Just the stuff we talked about right now.
Yeah.
It's a couple of anime and like a British show.
Yeah. Now, I also watched so on Peacock they got the movie Violent Night, which is like a Santa, kind of
Okay,
like a Home Alone Santa,
I
with
haven't seen that.
David Harbour as Santa Claus. It was so much fun. I know Gavin
Okay, so
saw
we got
this.
our American one.
Yeah,
for the
I know
year.
Gavin saw this back in in December when it came out in theaters. Um, it is just fun. It is a fun movie. It's basically Santa's kind of very jaded with the whole being Santa thing. He doesn't understand how the magic works. It just does what it does. And I mean, the whole movie opens up with Santa in a bar getting drunk. And another like a mall Santa comes in and he's like, yeah, these kids wanting video games and cash instead of toys and all this other stuff. And then he leaves, and like the bartender, she goes running to the roof. She's like, you can't go up to the roof. That's the roof access. That's not the exit. And she sees the sleigh fly off, and she's like, oh my God, that is Santa. And he banks and he starts heading back the other way. And she's looking up, and he just all over the side of the sleigh and just douses her in a big thing of vomit.
Oh
And
boy.
then it does a montage of him flying around to different cities, and he's like drinking, and he's one point he's standing on the seat of the sleigh, kind of pissing over the side, and yeah, he's just completely over being the whole Santa thing. And at the same time, there's this whole side story of this extremely wealthy family. The mother's the only one remaining, sort of thing, and she's browbeating her children into being afraid of her, and they suck up for the money, and the son is basically he's with his wife and daughter, and he's basically there to say goodbye because he doesn't want anything to do with his family anymore. And they get attacked by a bunch of criminals who when they get there, they're after they know there's $300 million in the family vault in the basement. And Santa shows up because he's supposed to deliver gifts as all this is going down, as they take all the people hostage, and gunfire makes the reindeer freak out and they go flying off. So now he's stuck there. And it's the fun little hijinks. And so we find out that Santa was a Viking. And not a very nice Viking. And this was kind of like when he thought he died, he became Santa's kind of like atonement for the life he led. And the one thing he misses besides Mrs. Claus is his hammer, skull crusher. It's the one thing he wishes he had the most. And he ends up fighting the mercenaries, and more people show up, and he uses a lot of Christmas stuff to kill people with. Like at one
Is there a
point,
precedent for making Santa Claus a Viking?
I don't know, but maybe this time it works. Like at one point, he stabs a guy in the eye with a Christmas ornament, like a Christmas star, and then
Okay.
plugs it in, and so electrocutes the guy. Now the nice thing is he never like picks up their guns and starts just wailing away. He just uses what's around him, a lot of Christmas themed things. He still has Christmas magic, like he puts his finger in his nose, and if he has enough time to get enough juice in him, he can like go up the chimney, stuff like that. So yeah, it was a fun movie to watch, and there's already a sequel in development. So yeah, and it's John Leguizamo was the head of the criminals, and they're all like Christmas themed names. So he's Scrooge, and then there's like one guy named Krampus and Gingerbread and stuff like that. So they all have like Christmas code names, and yeah,
Reminds me of Lee Major's Scrooged.
maybe. I don't know.
No?
I don't know. I don't think it's quite like in that vein, but yeah. If you get a chance to see it, I would recommend it. It's gory and violent in a funny way. It's kind of like Home Alone taken to the next stage. So instead of a little kid setting up the traps, it's Santa Claus. And yeah, he's a big former Viking. So
Do you think it's a Christmas classic?
yeah, I'm
In the
gonna
vein of
rank
Die
it up there.
Hard
In Christmas movies, it's up way up the list. It's a movie that I'll try to see every year as a Christmas movie.
Nice.
So yeah, it was fun. As I said, I had a lot of fun with this movie.
And like for a couple of months now, I've been talking the new Quantum Leap. And I know Trevor's not a big fan of it, but I've been sticking with it, and it's actually been quite it's a bit of a learning curve, but it's not like it's trying to be the original series too much, and which is kind of neat because it's starting to get away from the whole entire Sam Beckett part of the story and dealing with the here and now of why Ben is on this his current journey with the Quantum Leap program.
I think Amanda and I have been it's been on our list for a little while, just to at least try it out. So I think that's your endorsement might actually give us kind of that little punch to go through with it. We've
and again,
wrapped up a lot of stuff, so that looks like a possible option.
Yeah, but it does have a bit of training wheels at the very beginning. So if you stick through the first couple of episodes, once you, especially when it comes back, the last 2 episodes seems more like classic Quantum Leap storyline telling. So it again,
great.
It has to set its own new universe up, and then we'll just take it from there. And that being said, like I said, that 90s show, obviously, back to that 70s show and the new Quantum Leap. Also something that again, it's only in its 3rd episode, but I'm actually kind of liking the new Night Court that is out there. It definitely has a feel of an episode that is well into it doesn't seem like the early days of the original Night Court. It seems like, hey, we've already got this established sort of thing. You know what's going on, because I think they're relying on definitely a lot more of the nostalgic watch than a new watch. You might get new people coming in because of Big Bang Theory, with Michelle Roche being a character on that series that was quite popular. They might pull over an audience for her. But this is kind of neat because they're actually getting into the heart of the characters, because that's where Night Court started to do. After they established who everyone was and what everyone's personality was, they started to go into the backgrounds of the characters and how they react outside of the courtroom and all that. There's still quirky storylines and all that sort of thing, and there's definitely hilarious going on. There's great banter, which is kind of neat to see from a brand new cast that's getting together. Some of the characters are a little over the top in their acting, but again, it doesn't seem out of place in a series like Night Court.
Also, it's episode 3. They haven't quite settled in.
Exactly. But again, like I said, it seems like a good continuation of a good part of Night Court. And like I said last week's episode, when I talked about the history of Night Court, not every single episode hit home. I mean, there were some like, oh, really? Okay. Or let's go back to this sort of storyline and all that. But when they got to the character stuff is when they were really strong with that. And it's nice to see that a cast that has just been put together, they seem to be working very well. And John Larroquette, I mean, I love watching John Larroquette doing this and all that. And he's got his comic timing down as only John Larroquette can. And it's a fun ride to watch. Seeing all these new developments of what they've done to his character, we find out that he is a widower, that his wife was a recovering alcoholic sort of thing. We find out that Abby Stone she decided to change her character in this episode because she felt she was letting her dad down. And of course, Dan, knowing Harry, had to sit her down and said, look, I know your father, and he wouldn't be anything less than proud of you, sort of thing. And it's a really nice emotional thing in a series that, like, if you were new to Night Court and this was like your 3rd episode and you're like, wow, this is kind of deep, sort of thing. But knowing the actual series itself, it definitely helps. And like I said, it's more of a nostalgia watch than an actual newcomer to this series.
I got to say, like you're definitely selling it to me, but I just have a hard time seeing Dan Fielding as the grandfatherly, nurturing type.
Yeah, he's definitely, well,
obviously it works.
Yeah, it does. He's not the lecherous. Well, okay, There was in this particular episode, apparently every one day of the week there are supposed to be treats brought in, and Abby is the one that always brings in the treats, and then she realizes she's done something wrong and decides that she's going to change her ways and doesn't bring any treats. So her clerk then brings in treats for, like, hey, it's treat whatever it is, it might be Tuesday or whatever it was, but and then he brings in a box. He's got one of those classic, pink boxes from the bakery and all that. And as he's about to hand it over, and he says, "But mind you, it is 1 o'clock in the morning, and the only bakery that's open at 1 o'clock in the morning is one of those adult cake bakeries." And so, of course, she opens it and then slaps it right down. Of like, "Ooh, I wouldn't have thought there'd be that much detail in a nipple on a cupcake." And then he goes, "Yeah." And I asked him, just like, "Could you please just put like maybe a bit of a bra over those and whatnot?" But later on in the episode, Dan then opens the box to grab a cupcake, and then, like, you get that lecherous sort of glimpse of what Dan used to be and all that, and then he goes back into it and all that. Yeah. But then oh yeah, so wait a sec. Oh yeah, he opens it up and he looks into it, and Abby's like, "Well, you see, like, look, I'm a little too hungry to actually argue about this." And at the end of the episode, they all basically reach into the box to, like, the storyline has wrapped up for this, so everyone's in the judges' chambers celebrating, like, everything's back to the norm, and so they all celebrate by each having a cupcake. So as they all reach into the box, they pull it out and they digitally cover the cupcakes so you can't see. So it's a kind of a cute little play on it and all that sort of thing. So again, that's like a classic thing that they would have done on the original Night Court, and it's nice to see that the people involved with this series know what they're doing. They know that they're fans of the series. And apparently Michelle Roche and her husband, who are producers of this series, that's how they got the ability to do this series. They were able to, like, look, we know what we want, we know what the series is going to go on. And again, John Larroquette is back because he's also a producer of this Night Court series. So you're double paying up a guy that, you can only pay an actor so much, and then you get to pay him a little more by giving him the executive producer. That's a lot of reasons why when a actor suddenly in the second or third season gets an executive producer credit, is because, well, they're not willing to pay them anymore as an actor because that would be astronomical. But you know what? We can pay you as a producer. You become slightly more responsible for the series and you get more money. So that's one way to bring in something like that. So now so I'm, again, Night Court, I'm enjoying it. It's actually quite fun, and I'll keep around it. It's a half-hour sitcom. I haven't watched a network televised sitcom in the longest time, and it's just a nice, refreshing little, hey, I'm watching it on the PVR, so I can fast forward through all the commercials. So like 22 minutes later, it's over.
It's on NBC, obviously.
It's on NBC. Yes, it is on NBC. Yeah. That's the other thing about that 90s show, is they're 22-minute episodes, so they're shot like a regular aired sort of. They're not going to. The first episode is a little longer, just because I think they can, but the rest of them are like around your 22, 21-minute mark. So it's nice that it's to be like that.
Oh, it follows the sitcom formula.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice bite size. You can take 1 or 2 episodes and get on with your day, or watch one before you go to bed or something.
Exactly. And yeah, so, and like I said, it's a week-to-week thing, so gotta wait till next week for the next episode because it's network television and that's how they make their money. So
one thing that Troy and Gavin allegedly were talking about is the best things to come out of 2022.
Okay.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a basically a rehash of what we went through in the last year. Now we're at the end of January, and it took us a while to come together to do something like this. And what we're going to talk about now is we are going to talk about some of our favorite things that we experienced from pop culture in is from 2022. I almost said 2023 because that's not where we are. Well, that's where we are now, but this is not what
So
we're
much
talking
happening in
about. So-
January.
exactly. Yes. Oh my God. What do you got that is the top of your list? We'll go back and
Let's
forth. You talk
see.
about something, I'll talk about something. We'll go back and forth. How about you start? Because I've just been doing a bunch of talking and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, my two biggest like time sinks for this year or this past year were for PlayStation 4, the Horizon Forbidden West, which is the sequel to Zero Dawn Horizon or Horizon Zero
Right.
Dawn.
Right.
One of the coolest sci-fi storylines I've encountered in a video game in a very long time. And the Forbidden West continues on with it, making everything that made the first game as just involving as it was, and just amping it up, giving you new creatures, new machines to hunt, new abilities. There's a new mechanical velociraptor type of creature that you can tame and ride. It's you can even ride a pterodactyl, or at least a mechanical pterodactyl. It was just spellbinding how involved it was, and even just something as simple as just soaring over the lands on the back of this winged machine was just one of the most relaxing things I've ever encountered in a video game. Even though the game is like balls to the wall, like robotic T-Rex combat and shit like that. The other one was the God of War Ragnarok.
Right.
Which,
Yeah. I've heard a bunch of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I talked about that in a previous podcast, but I finished it up, and oh my God, I was practically crying at the end of that And as I'm sure you've heard, Christopher Judge is the voice of the titular God of War, Kratos.
Right.
And of course, any longtime sci-fi fan knows him as Teal'c.
Yeah, good old Stargate.
Yeah, there was just so much emotion and nuance in it. I mean, the first one was all about a boy trying to a father trying to bond with his boy, and then the second one is about a father learning to let go of his son. Let him be his own man. And good Lord, like some of the best mythos for North gods I've seen in a long time. Like easily my favorite sort of retelling of these these gods, and just amazing game. If you could play it, even if you've got like a bog standard PlayStation 4, it looks and plays amazing even on that. But if you got a PS5, that's where the real show is.
That's cool. All right. So what I'm gonna say is that. All right. Well, that's great to hear about that, because I mean, video games are always I'm out of the loop on video games sort of thing, but a lot of the podcasts that I listen to are sometimes talk about video games, and yeah, Thor Ragnarok is one of the big ones that everyone always was talking about. For me, one of my favorite things was something that I was so excited to when I heard about it, and so excited to see, and I was always like nervous about, was it going to live up to its potential? Was it going to be what everyone was making it out to be? And the fact that it was something that was being released directly to Disney Plus, it's always going to be hit and miss in that. And that's the MCU's version of Werewolf by Night. And I have to say that I was so incredibly thrilled from the opening frame to the final credit that this was a fabulous showing for the MCU and what they can do. It was the first of our special presentations, which I hope we get a ton more of. The second one was the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which also was a friggin' thrill ride and all this. But the fact that Marvel was able to give us this like 45-minute little show that gave us this whole entire new like genre that we can bring into the MCU. The horror genre being there is a fantastic thing to be able to pull off. And like it's just so, it was just so freaking amazing to watch, and it was such a thrill. And it was amazing how it wasn't as, it was so classic Universal Studios monsters, but modern day horror and MCU feel. I mean, we got to see Man Thing, we got to see like gore and blood, we got to see a werewolf. There's now a werewolf storyline. We now know that we were introduced to like some of the heads of slain beasts. Like one of them, there's a vampire and all that. We're now, things have been introduced. There's cyclopses. There's that are not friggin' Scott Summers sort of thing. They're actually one-eyed creatures and all that sort of thing. There's like vampires, there's monsters, there's like all these yetis. And this was just in glimpses that we saw throughout the one room that we were in. And it was just so unbelievably amazing. And I'm so thrilled that it was able to, I would have loved to have seen this in the theater. This would have been a fantastic thing to see on the big screen and all that. Sure, our TVs nowadays are nice and big. You can turn off the lights and turn up the sound and all that sort of thing. But seeing this in a room full of fans would have been a fantastic thing to see at Halloween. And the fact that it did get released in October, which was another great treat. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of these special presentations, because this, and like I said, with the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, introducing Kevin Smith into the MCU was, I mean, it was just such a thrill sort of thing. So yeah, so that was my hugest thing that I really enjoyed the most out of all the pop culture stuff. And again, of course, there's a bunch of other stuff that was out there. Like I loved Andor, because like I keep saying, it's the best Star Wars since the original trilogy that's been out there. And like Everything Everywhere All at Once, fabulous, mind-bending movie that if you have not seen it, do yourself a favor. Michelle Yeoh is a godsend in this movie and all that. And I'll even Jamie Lee Curtis and Short Round, because I can't remember the actor's actual real name, a stellar performance and all that. And getting into horror, like Barbarian was a fantastic movie as well to have seen. You got anything else on your short list of what you enjoyed in 2020?
Well, one of my favorite and best surprises for 2022 was Strange New Worlds. Just easily some of the best Star Trek I have ever watched in my life. Like I have very fond memories of growing up watching the original Star Trek series, watching Next Generation when I was a teenager slash, young 20 something, seeing Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, again, all of them had qualities that were decent, and some had qualities that were not so decent.
Not so decent, yeah.
Really, really bad storylines. Full disclosure, I insist what he refers to as Space Jesus, because basically Michael Burnham solves everything. And I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of that formula, although as characters, Suru, like basically everyone on the bridge had some degree of presence that felt like they were their own character. But unfortunately, it was always Michael Burnham to the rescue with almost every single episode.
Yeah.
Which, okay, it is what it is. Characters are likable. Great show. Now, season 2 of Discovery introduces us to the original Enterprise with Anson Mount as Captain Pike, and he's now the captain of Discovery. And holy shit, he is the most likable character I've ever encountered in Star Trek history. And okay, well, what's going to happen at the end of this? So obviously Spock goes with him. Okay, great. He's on the Enterprise. So now what? Oh, apparently Strange New Worlds has its own series greenlit. Okay, let's watch this. And now it is back to Star Trek at its perfect form. Episodic, might be a little bit of an overarching sort of thing in the background, but it's not the thing that's really driving the episodes day to day. It's back to formulaic, episodic. Everything wraps up in a nice little bow, and just every episode, in my opinion, in that show has been an absolute banger. Even the weakest has been entertaining at the very least. And I cannot wait for season 2. They've brought back classic Trek in its purest form, and I am 100% there for it.
I totally 100% agree with you, Gavin. I have been a fan. I mean, again, Ensign is a fabulous. If you don't follow him on Twitter, follow him on Twitter, because he's hilarious. He's very grassroots, sort of like posting about every little thing that he does, sort of thing. He's a pleasure to follow on Twitter and all that, especially when there's so much not so fun on Twitter nowadays. But yeah, you're right with the series. It's a fantastic cast. It has a gorgeous look. Of course, we know the technology is way beyond what we actually saw back in the late 70s, the late 60s sort of thing for the TV series of Kirk's Enterprise. But this has such an amazing feel to it. And you are right. It is classic Trek. It is great episodic adventure. And yeah, it's just that Captain Pike is, I'll follow him like wherever his adventures go. I mean, I like the new Spock.
Give me a red shirt, baby. Give me a red shirt.
Yeah, give me a red shirt. Exactly. Number 1, played by Rebecca Romijn, is killing it, sort of thing. And yeah, and I'm sorry, there was only 10 episodes for that season. And they went through almost every single Star Trek trope in those 10 episodes, which was fantastic. Yeah.
I got to say, Ethan Peck as Spock. He took a little while in Discovery to grow on me.
Yep.
The beard was really throwing me off. I was just like, oh, why does he have a beard? Why does he have a beard? And then it's like by the time he's joining Enterprise, he walks on without the beard, and I'm like, dude, where's the beard?
Yeah. Wait, that guy looks like Spock.
but yeah, his portrayal is bang on. He feels like classic Spock.
He is definitely doing a great homage to oh no, Leonard Nimoy. So yeah.
I would have had to send you a couple of lashes by mail if you'd
no. I'm sorry. I just quickly looked at the clock and all that and realized, oh no, I just forgot what I was saying. Right, Leonard Nimoy. But yeah, so
good. Celia Rose Gooding as Uhura, fantastic. Christina Chong as Lan Nguyen Singh. We got Bruce Horak as Hemmer. I loved his portrayal. I was saddened when he died, and I'm using air quotes because
exactly.
Whatever happens. I mean, just such a joy to watch. They had and as he said about the every trope, they had the comedy episode, which was phenomenal.
Yeah,
at like Spock and T'Pring and in Freaky Friday.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. And that too, when you do an episode like that so early in your run, where your actors really haven't been around each other for them, and to legitimately have one actor act like another actor, it's just phenomenal. So yeah, like those two switching,
pure
talent, and the fact that like, hey, one of the episodes took place in Ontario Place. It's always nice to see the local, because it's shot in the studios in like the Toronto area, sort of thing, for a good portion of it. So it's always nice to see.
Also a lot of some of the photos posted by the cast, this background is Toronto. It's like, oh, I know that place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you have anything?
I do have things. I don't know if it's the best things that came out of 22. I'm going to just talk about, for me, highlights of 2022, things that kind of stuck in my head. So I'll mention a couple and you can jump in anytime. Some of them are media related. Others are just like world events. So to me, one of the biggest things that came out of 2022 was Russia invading the Ukraine. Because that just flipped a lot of things onto its head. Because there's products I use like Blender plugins and stuff like that are written by people in the Ukraine that suddenly they couldn't give any support. Because they had more important shit going on in their country. And I had thought we had gotten to a point where, large countries, first world nations, stuff like that didn't need to invade other countries. But I was wrong. Putin he's got a hard on for the Ukraine somehow. So yeah, that was one of the big things for me that happened in 2022.
I won't go too deep into that because I'm a conspiracy theory guy and everybody's part of the World Economic Forum and they all kind of, circle around each other. And yeah, I mean, the whole thing's completely insane. Like, don't get me wrong with that. But yeah, the conspiracy brain just goes on like George Orwell level. Like, what the hell is going on here? But like, yeah, that was insane.
I'm going to touch on a couple of other big things like the death of Queen Elizabeth. She was the second longest reigning monarch of the British Empire. So, I mean, pretty much my entire life up until when she passed away, she's always been like the head royal of London, of England. And yeah, so that was like to me that's a monumental change because like look at how much Canadian money has her portrait on it. Are they going to start issuing stuff with King Charles on it now? Like, are they going to stop issuing the stuff that has her portrait on it? Like, it's a pretty big deal. Down here in the U.S., it wasn't as big of a deal, but I think up in Canada, from what I could hear, it was a little tougher. Because yeah, there's going to be like a big change in the Canadian Mint and stuff like that. And Hulu.
And on my end of this, because my grandmother passed away not too long ago, and she was the same age as Queen Elizabeth, and my grandmother had always looked up to her because same age and the royalty and the whole lifespan together. And my grandparents had their 75th wedding anniversary, and she got this like what would you call it? I don't know, like a plaque, like a certificate, something signed by the Queen congratulating them. And that was something that was always hanging on their wall. So for me, I always equated the two together, both the Queen and my grandmother, sort of going through time together.
I get it. I mean, I always admired the Queen when I heard the story of back in World War II. She refused to evacuate the UK because at one point they were ready to ship her off to Canada. And she refused to go. And she trained as a mechanic. She could strip down a Jeep and rebuild it. She also trained as a sniper because her reckoning was if the Germans got a foothold in the UK and started marching, she wanted to be able to use the rifle to good degree and put down some Germans, like put down some Nazis. So they trained her as a sniper. And I'm just thinking, I mean, that's incredibly badass that you got the, kind of like pushes the tiara up out of the way and takes down a couple of Nazis. So yeah, I just, I always respected her for just, she was faced with a situation where her life was in danger if the Nazis could get that foothold, and she was like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to fight for this country. They'll pay for every inch of soil they take. And yeah.
Along those lines, have you watched The Crown yet?
I've watched some of The Crown. I'm waiting for a chance that Mary and I can sit down and start it like right from the first and go through it. Because I mean, I see all these little clips of it and I'm like, that looks really awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. And again, conspiracy brain, I think about how much of it is kind of propaganda, kind of whitewashing certain things that have happened over history.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's an incredible story and how deep they go and how harsh they go in the story. It's impressive. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so that's on my to-watch list at some point when Mary and I can scrape together enough time to do it together. Let's see, other things. Well, I mean, for some media, it was like the big Will Smith, Chris Rock slap at the Oscars. Which I mean,
okay, so let's talk about this. Do you think that was fabricated, or do you think that was just a thing that happened?
I want to believe that it was fabricated to generate, interest in because the Oscars have been so dry and boring for so long. They needed something. But if it is fabricated, whoever greenlit that needs to be fired. Because that's just like, how about the host suddenly drops trow and takes a dump right on stage? Maybe that'll get some ratings because that's of the same caliber of event. Like, and if this wasn't an unscripted thing, then I think in some ways it was kind of a wake-up call for some stand-up comedians that sometimes there are some topics that you don't talk about.
Although G.I. Jane, I thought that was a pretty light joke.
I thought so too.
Have you watched any Ricky Gervais?
Oh yeah.
He goes deep. I
mean,
he
does. He holds, like, he doesn't hold back any shots. You can see his disdain for the Hollywood machine. But yeah, I think there's just some things some subjects you just don't broach. But yeah, there was that. For me,
my opinion, just as far as that whole Oscar slap thing goes, is I don't think it was planned. If it was planned, I think it was like a Will Smith MK Ultra mind control. I don't think Chris Rock was in on it, because I watched that so many times just to look at the mannerisms, because again, animators, you kind of look at the acting, you look at the movements, you look at the responses. Chris Rock looked legit. If he was acting, he was a brilliant actor.
If he was acting, they should have handed him an Oscar.
Right, he should have got it right there.
They should
right after he got slapped. They should have gave him the award and let him walk off stage.
Here you go, Chris, best actor, because that was brilliant.
Yeah.
But there are other bigger things media wise, like the sudden death of Bob Saget. That one came out of nowhere. It's not like he was an old man. It's not like he was in poor health. It just dies. It was just, again, like, was he killed? And then it was like, no, he just like had a heart attack. And I was like, well, oh, okay.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things where my conspiracy brain goes all over the place, but that's not what this podcast is about.
No. The other things were the trial of Depp versus Heard. That was just media stupidity showcased as a circus. It didn't need to be televised, honestly.
And this is one where, again, my conspiracy brain always kind of takes its own angle on that, because there was other world events happening at the same time. Like, was this a distraction?
Yeah,
was this theater?
If it was supposed to be
like
a distraction,
toxic femininity?
If it was supposed to be a distraction, it was a poor one, because it really didn't distract anybody. Because again, if someone had said, "Hey, we're going to use this event to distract us from that event," they failed terribly. Because it wasn't the shit show that, like, say, the OJ trial was. So yeah, it was nothing.
I thought Johnny Depp gave an amazing performance in that. Like, I think they could have handed him an Oscar for that. I think Amber Heard tried to get an Oscar, but she didn't win it.
She wouldn't win one anyway. She's a terrible actress.
And another thing that's come out afterwards is, I guess, Jason Momoa and Amber Heard, how apparently, allegedly, from online information, she was sort of a facilitator in him getting a divorce from his wife.
Yeah.
So she's kind of all over the place and seems like a bit of a Hollywood harlot.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody still loves Johnny Depp. It's interesting. And the fact that he was canceled out of the Harry Potter movie because of it, and the Pirates of the Caribbean, that was an interesting thing with a contract. I forget however many millions of dollars, and then what was it, like a llama or whatever, like whatever thing he asked for, some ridiculous thing. So apparently they offered him something plus a little bit of extra money, and not the animals. But
but still,
that was interesting to watch. That was entertainment
to me. Also, it kind of shows how a lot of these corporations, that the second there's any hint of wrongdoing, they immediately, their first reaction, fire everyone who's associated with it. And then when you find out, oh, well, actually this person was innocent of that, and then they're like, now we got to backtrack. Now we got to back a truck of money up to this person's house to see if they'll come back.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to be like, all right, let's give it a week. Let the dust settle from the initial sensational headlines and see how much truth is into it before we, not just burn the bridge, but nuke it from orbit and then go, we were wrong. You think we can unnuke it? I don't think so.
It was an alpaca.
Okay, an alpaca.
$300 million and 1 million alpacas.
Well, are there that many to be had?
I think that's why they gave him some extra cash.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but yeah, that whole moment was entertaining.
So
okay, you know what? Well, okay, I wasn't going to do all these world events.
Okay,
Elon Musk buying Twitter.
that was on my
one
list.
for me. Was it?
Yeah, that was on my list because that's, to me, is watching someone spend almost $50 billion and then proceed to take a blowtorch to it. It's like buying the Mona Lisa for $50 billion and going, will it burn? Maybe. Let's see.
The interesting thing I've been finding is all like the releasing of all the Twitter files and him letting journalists go through all the data and seeing how, so because the conspiracy theory forever was that Twitter was like shadow banning people and manipulating views and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. And as soon as he bought it and kind of opened up the hood, it's like that was going on the entire time. Like everything's happening. And to the point where reporters are coming in and say, well, like, what am I allowed to say? Like, you're showing me all. It's like, oh, say anything that's true. It's like,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And
Now,
it's fascinating.
What I find is funny, though. I mean, yeah, I could see him after he buys Twitter, he axes a lot of the top personnel. Basically, because I mean, Twitter was so management heavy. I think it was for every one programmer, there was like 15 to 20 managers above that person. And so everything they would do would trickle down to this one programmer for them to hurriedly code into whatever framework.
And all the parodies have like the wine bars and yoga rooms and meditation spaces.
Yeah. But the thing is that the people actually doing the work never got access to any of that shit, which was, I mean, because like Google, the kind of the same thing. They have it's very top heavy with management, but they do have stuff for the lower people to enjoy, to think, oh, well, why would I go home? I could be here at Google campus and get a massage while I
code something or
So Twitter was very, very top heavy. So I think he was right when he came in and just cleared the decks. The downside is when he cleared the decks, he also got rid of the people who kept Twitter functioning, and then had to, it was like, oh, this guy's job was actually legit. He was actually keeping things running. We need to hire him back. What do you mean you don't want to come back? And it's just like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to buy Twitter for the sake of peeling back the layers and revealing the ugly truths inside, then you accept the $50 billion hit and just move on. But you don't try to keep it functioning at minimal personnel and then complain that, well, the programmers are saying shit like, oh, this is run horribly, or this, because you listen, if they're the people keeping it afloat, they're the people you want to listen to.
My favorite was the firing of Ligma and Johnson.
Yes.
That was the absolute best media entertainment and ultimate troll job that ever happened. The fact that these two essentially comedians or pranksters, trollers, went outside of the Twitter office, got all these interviews, and then Elon Musk said, you know what, I made a mistake. I'm going to hire them back. And there's the picture of him with the two of them together, bring them back into the fold. I thought that was genius.
Yeah, it's as I said, it just feels like he didn't have a plan. Like he's like, all right, I'm going to buy it. And they're like, okay. And then he was like, woke up the next morning and went, I bought Twitter. Okay, let's just go in and start shaking shit up. Like with zero plans. Just, I'll come in walking, carrying a sink. Like really?
Let that sink in. I thought that was pretty funny. At first, I was wondering what the hell's going on, and then it's like, let that sink in. It's like, okay, that's a pretty funny meme.
Well, I just like you spent almost $50 billion to have a dad joke.
The fact you can afford that. Okay, speaking of conspiracy brain, this is where I start going. So a lot of the stuff about Elon Musk I really, really like. And then I start wondering, like, is it part of the establishment? Is this like the new Bill Gates? Is this a controlled opposition?
See, this is the part that I mean, a lot of people go off about how smart Elon Musk is and all this other stuff, and how the best was the reporter who tried to talk about how Elon Musk has pulled himself up by his own bootstraps to become the successful, multi-billionaire that he is. He did not start in poverty. The guy's dad owned like multiple like gem mines. This is a kid who at 6 years old would have loose emeralds in his pocket. He wanted for nothing. And people, well, he made Tesla. No, he bought Tesla and, took it to that degree. But it's not like the car was something he sat down at a drawing board and designed. Like when he bought Tesla, the first car was pretty much already designed and the prototypes built.
Yeah, and in fact, there was an interview that was going around recently with that, where some people were asking him about it, and he went through the whole story of the whole process of how it happens.
It was a case of they had run into cost overruns. They needed investors, and he said, "I'll be more than an investor. I will buy out your debt, and I will supply you with cash to carry this project forward." And they were like, "It's either this or we go tits up. Why not?" But when I hear people go, "Oh, Elon Musk made Tesla," do your research. Like, really? Like, that's the part that just so cringe.
It depends what you mean by made.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
like if you made it, he didn't invent it.
No, but in their mind, they're saying he started the company right. Tesla. He designed the electric cars that people are driving. It's like, no, he did none of that.
No, but he did make it.
Yeah,
he took what those people had started
and funded it.
Yeah,
that's all
he made it happen.
He funded it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm less enamored of Elon Musk and his accomplishments because most of it is he had the wallet there and used it. And he's not even the richest man in the world anymore. There's other people who are richer than he is, so he doesn't even
that again gets into the conspiracy angle. It's like you can only measure the richest people depending on like what you're using. There's a lot of people who are more richer than anybody on the top 10 list because their assets are in other things and they're off the list. So
well, I just saw a thing of oh god, what's his name? It was like the most valuable car collection in the US. And it was I can't think of the guy's name now. It's right on the top of my, but he has like some of the cars to have. Like he has the Ferrari 250 original, things worth like $100 million. Shit like that. Like, how do you assess this guy's car? And they had this whole thing in this on YouTube video where they tried to assess cars that they know he had, and they were already at like almost $700 million for the cars that they know he has, not including like the fleet of Range Rovers that he has for his place in Vale or the Hamptons or whatever and shit like that. It was just like, oh god, like how do you assess that kind of thing? And like with property values that fluctuate seemingly by the minute, if a person who's a lot invested heavily into real estate, their value goes up and down on a day-to-day basis. So yeah. So other things. Last thing I have that's really non-media, well, kind of media, but non-media, was the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which is kind of big down here in the US. I kind of looking at it as almost like the US trying to strive, like some people in the US trying to make the Handmaid's Tale a reality. So yeah, I'm personally of the opinion, woman's body, woman's choice. I think old white men should not be allowed to dictate what a woman can and cannot do to her own body. But that's just me.
Okay. This is going off the track for geeking off the page, but since you opened the door, I'll give my opinion on that.
Absolutely.
So my philosophy on this is essentially you have to admit what it is. It's essentially killing a life form, right? If you have an abortion, right? Now, it is the woman's choice, and I do agree with that. And like looking at Jordan Peterson lectures and getting into deep psychology and all this kind of evolutionary stuff. Essentially what it is it's the females are the ones that control the evolution of humanity. And I do agree it's their choice. Like, how do you want the next generation to look? Like, what is going to be the next evolution of humanity? And essentially it is the women's choice. Now, I think it's gone completely toxic in the way it's looked at in this modern age, but when you really get down to it, it's the woman's choice. Like throughout history, it's always the woman that picks the man to take those genetics and move it to the next evolutionary stage.
Not always.
Unless you're Genghis Khan.
Well, not only that, but Roe v. Wade also protected women who, if they were raped and impregnated.
But that is the choice. If they say, you know what, I don't want to, if Hitler raped me, I don't want to give birth to baby Hitler.
I don't want
It's Hitler's. Like, you know what, that's your choice.
Yeah, but
yeah, I don't think the world needs another baby Hitler.
Overturning Roe v. Wade takes away that choice.
Right.
Because, like in Texas, their cutoff for when a woman can, take the steps to abort a pregnancy, the cutoff is before a pregnancy can really be detected. Like, from the time that, from conception to when you can say, oh, look, I'm pregnant, it's about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Texas cut it down to like 3 weeks. Most women wouldn't even know that they are pregnant unless there's a very invasive procedure to say, ooh, something's happening. Most women don't even realize that they've missed a period for at least a month. So I think in some cases, overturning Roe v. Wade and letting the individual states decide, well, when the cutoff is that a woman can legally have an abortion, if they can have one at all. And then this whole thing of like, well, some states are like, no abortions allowed, so women have to go out of state. But if someone finds out you went out of state for an abortion, now they can blow the whistle on you. And then when you come back home, you face, legal issues. To me, that's where it's you're turning into a Handmaid's Tale, where the choice of pregnancy is no longer with the woman and her choice. It's with the lawyers, or like basically it's now in the law in the hands of old white men who say, nope. I don't care how you got pregnant. You're staying pregnant. You're bringing and it's also like, people who are in an economic struggle who say, I can't afford to have a child at this point. If a woman gets raped and she's in in this economic situation where a child will not it's just not a conceivable thing to happen at that time, and told, nope, you got to carry it. You got to bring it all the way. I don't care how much, how much it'll cost you and how you won't be able to afford it. Too bad. Like to me, that's where that's where the law fails.
Yeah, when it gets down to it, for me, I have very, very, very strong opinions and all this kind of stuff. But again, I'm not a woman.
Me either.
So it's like, it's kind of not my battle in that context. But I agree, we don't need any baby Hitlers unless, they took a turn for the better and became like a Superman. Yay.
Baby Jesus.
Yeah. Like that would be kind of cool. But then at the same time, I do think it's the biological right for females to decide the future of humanity. So it's up to males to be the best we can be, be our toughest, best versions of ourselves, so that a woman says, yes, you're the one, and say, yay for me. And we create humanity. Because I think
there was that argument that someone said, well, if you want to do population control, and say, women who get pregnant have to carry it to term unless it's a threat to their life or whatnot, then when boys turn 15, they have to go have a vasectomy, because it's a reversible procedure. So when they decide, all right, I'm old enough, mature enough to have kids, go in, get the tube reconnected, and carry on and start.
Now that sounds bonkers.
But that was just it. Immediately, all the lawmakers were like, no, you can't do that because that infringes upon their rights. How was that any different?
Well, okay, so the difference would be is the one you're basically neutering a person.
Mm-hmm. And the other, you're saying you have to, if you get pregnant, no matter what the situation is that got you pregnant, you have to carry it to term no matter what.
Right. So that's like the plus negative. So it's sort of like the opposite. It's like a yin yang. It's the exact reversal.
Exactly. Either. Ways. So the thing is that's kind of like the, if you're saying, well, the women have to carry the pregnancy no matter what happens, then remove what's causing some of these pregnancies anyway.
Yeah.
So if some 17-year-old kid like attacks a woman and rapes her, if he's already been neutered, then there's no chance of her getting pregnant.
But doesn't that just encourage rapists?
Well, no, rape is not about sex anyway. It's about power. So
all right, so just beat all these people up, and then we're done. Yeah. This was a weird tangent. Troy, feel to edit this if this is not geeking off the page material.
Now, more media related things is the whole 2022 was all about the multiverse. We had Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and then we had Everything Everywhere, all at once, which I'm dying. I
haven't seen that yet. Have you seen it?
I haven't yet. Mare and I had planned to see it, and actually we ended up watching Extraordinary, the first episode of that, and we were happy with that. So probably after we get back, we're going to sit down to, one night, just rent the movie and watch it.
Yeah, I'd still like to see it, but I haven't seen it yet.
And the other thing is, in my opinion, Disney Plus has taken a huge dive.
Oh yeah.
2022, I mean, Obi-Wan was such a disappointment. Willow took that disappointment and kicked a goddamn field goal with it because it was just a shitstorm. I despise Willow.
Oh, I love that.
I absolutely despise. That was such a waste of time and money. Yeah, and it honestly, it started with Obi-Wan, because they brought back Ewan McGregor, and they were bringing back Hayden Christensen, and I was like, this might be kind of cool and kind of interesting. And then when they do this, and what we got was so lackluster.
Are we still talking Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
That's one that I was so disappointed in. It's a thing where I kind of pictured what Obi-Wan could have been. I didn't like the prequels, and
you and I
like
discussed
Ewan McGregor.
You and I discussed how they could have done it, so it would have been the perfect bridge between episode 3 and episode 4. And they just
how could you fumble a ball that badly? You had everything in your favor to make something like the best Star Wars entity that's existed since the original series. Everything was there. Like the fact Mandalorian could do it. You have dollar store Boba Fett and Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
And they kicked your ass. How does that beat
Obi-Wan and Jedis? And they still... So it's funny. Someone gave me a great analogy of that. It was like imagining in the first game of the opening season of the NFL, in the first game, someone fumbles the ball so hard that the other team automatically wins the Super Bowl. Just the rest of the season's over. That team has won. You fumbled so hard, the other team has automatically been given the Super Bowl.
But can we get a second season?
God. So yeah, that's what Obi-Wan did. They fumbled that opportunity so hard that they automatically gave the win to someone else because they couldn't fail any harder. And then along came Willow to prove that, oh no, you can fail harder. You can honestly fail fucking harder.
And then Velma came along, but that's a whole other story.
Oh God, that's still carrying on into 2023. So that's kind of more of a trend. But I'm just talking about stuff from 2022 that, yeah. Oh God, I'm still fuming at Willow. That is just, I
am so happy because I didn't watch it.
Yeah, you're just be glad you got to miss that one. That was just.
But I love watching people's reactions to it. It's great.
God. It was just so heartbreaking. You have such a great franchise to start with, and then it's like saying, hey, I'm going to run this ball for a touchdown, and I take 2 steps and shoot myself in the face and go, well, maybe not.
And that's the thing with the way all these studios are being run, is they're bringing in people that don't care. They're putting in their own identity politics or their own moralities or whatever.
Yeah.
They think they can do better than the original. It's like, I'm going to put my impression on this. You know what? If you want to do your own impression on something, write your own damn story.
Exactly.
Don't take something old and then butcher it and shit all over it.
To me,
create something, write it yourself. If you're actually a good writer, you can make something. If you're not, then stay the hell away from the like priceless properties and
that's
entertainment
episode 8
that people love.
That's Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi.
Yes.
He proved in Knives Out and Glass Onion, when he has complete creative freedom to do whatever the fuck he wants with his own thing, he can write a damn good story.
And I won't watch it.
Please watch it. The 2 really good casts making 2 fantastic movies. But then you have The Last Jedi, where he's playing in someone else's sandbox. He doesn't like the toys in there, so he just drops trow and takes a giant dump in the sandbox, kicks some sand over it and says, all right, play with that, boys and girls, and then leaves. And that's, to me, that's The Last Jedi, is Rian Johnson, massive diarrhea shit in the Star Wars sandbox.
I would love a meme of that. I wish someone would make a meme of that.
So to me, it's a case of he can make really good films. It just he has zero love for Star Wars, and The Last Jedi showed that. It was 100% of watching a man take a 2+ hour dump on the Star Wars on the Star Wars universe. That's all it was. That's that entire movie. And then you had Abrams on either end. First end, he was like, well, let me just redo A New Hope with splitting some characters into 2 characters
and keep Luke Skywalker away from the movie.
Yeah, and then the last movie is him like, fuck, well, here's me with a shovel trying to pick up all this shit that Rian Johnson left behind in the sandbox. I don't have time to tell any other story.
I still haven't seen that movie, and I'm so happy folks. I haven't.
Yeah, that's just him saying good luck, folks, while I shovel shit. So yeah,
that would be another great meme.
Yeah. So
good luck, folks.
Yeah, good luck. I got my little plastic toy shovel as I dig out shit. Yeah. So to me, that's epitomizes what happened with that whole franchise. Like that, just yeah. Oh, yeah. So that brings us to 2023.
Well, no, because I actually had some things I liked in 2022.
All right.
You took things all crazy political and
I was just
political,
like, more world events.
Yeah, world event stuff. For me, it's just speaking strictly entertainment. I'm going to keep this geeking off the page.
All right.
Centric.
Hit me.
Weird and Triple R. Those were the things, not just myself, but unanimously with the whole kitchen family. Those were the highlights. And it's so bonkers to say that in an entire year of entertainment, those are the standouts. Oh, and also Cobra Kai. So there's 3. And that's my 2022. Those are the things that I thought like hit all the right notes, gave the family the most joy and entertainment. And it's so crazy that you have like a weird 1980s sequel TV series. You have a Weird Al Yankovic biopic, but not really. And you have a Bollywood action movie. And those are the highlights of the entire year for 2022.
To me, that epitomizes basically from 2020 to 2022. Like that's because, it's Hollywood is in a drought of creativity. The music industry is the same thing, in a drought of creativity, and it takes stuff from coming from outside the box, well outside the box, to say, hey, you can still be entertained. There's things out there that still can be creative,
and that gives me that glimmer of hope. You just see like it's like a glow in the horizon, and I think, you know what? There's still a chance for creativity. There's still a chance for entertainment. There's some hope for humanity.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And I think we'll do a collective goodbye, and Troy can edit together with the other ones. So ready in 3, 2.
Collective goodbye.
That works.
It's pretty in sync.
This has been Geeking Off the Page, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bad time, same spider channel, may the force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.